Hey guys, it's Veronica here from Aussies Do Down Under Farm School Season, and today I'm going to be going back to my how-to videos by showing you how to organise a unit study. Thanks to one of my subscribers, Becky, so shout out to Becky. This is for you and for anyone else interested in knowing how to organise a unit study curriculum. So let's get started. So hey, today, like I said, we're going to be going over how to create a unit study curriculum, and I'm going to be showing you sort of how I do it. Now, before I start, if you are interested in subscribing to my channel, I am happy to have you on board in our little family. I'm thanking all my new subscribers. It's great to meet you all. Really, thanks for all your comments and thanks for your encouragement over the last few weeks of my moving. I thought I would take the opportunity to show you how I put together a unit study, and also I'm going to incorporate a little bit of review on a couple of resources that I use to actually create a unit study. So if you're wondering what I mean about unit study curriculum, it's a style of teaching your homeschool curriculum. So some people might use textbooks, other people might use Charlotte Mason. I've done a previous video on curriculum, or a couple I think, which I will put a link in somewhere here for you to have a look at if you want to know all the different ways you can teach in homeschool. But today I'm going to go over one particular style, which is called a unit study. Basically, this is taking a whole subject matter. So today I'm going to show you electricity and circuits, and using that subject matter to cover all the different subjects in your homeschool for that term. This is great for big thinking sort of children who don't like to be confined to one particular area, especially those kids who don't really work well with textbooks, because they're a little bit more broader thinking, a little bit more outside of the box kind of kids. It's also a great way of teaching if you have a child who's really into a particular subject matter. So if your kid was really into animals, for instance, then you could do a whole unit study or a whole term study on animals. So a couple of videos back, or was it last week? I think it was last week's video. I showed you Circuit Scribe. Now this is a great resource that I use as a unit study. Now I don't just use this by itself. I will also incorporate one of these. But you don't have to. You can leave one or the other out of it and still have a successful unit study on electricity. So this unit study is going to cover the science part, the technology part, and also English, math, art, believe it or not, and anything else that we can sort of throw in. This resource comes in many different packs. Now this is the sort of ultra kit, which has 34 pieces in it. You can get smaller kits. I think you can get a bigger kit. This is one of the biggest. You can get it from Officeworks, online. There's probably a lot of different places. You just have to Google. Okay, so these STEM boxes, as you can see, have different subjects. You can get them in many different sort of scientific kind of subjects. Now, I think these range from around that $25. You might be able to get them cheaper if you do a little bit of Googling and research, but I think I got mine for around that $25 a box. So when you're considering it can contribute to a whole term, potentially even 2 terms of curriculum, that's a pretty good price for that. So included in the Circuit Scribe are all the little components that you're going to need: the pen to draw the circuits, a battery, and the book itself, which leads you through the process. If I take it out, it's basically just a cardboard box. So inside the box, you're going to get this Circuit Scribe steel canvas. The pieces stick to it. And then the Circuit Scribe book, which is what leads the child through. So starting from the beginning, it talks about the different components. It talks about tricks and tips on how to actually draw the circuits. It talks about drawing in the actual notebook, because this becomes their notebook as well. You're actually drawing, if you can see that, hopefully you can see that. The child actually is drawing the circuits in the book, and then it's showing them what component they want to add there. It's starting your child on a very basic circuit and explaining what currents are, or electricity. Working through complete circuits, writing their name and creating lights so it lights up. It talks about the resistors and all the different color codes, so they're really learning about the basics of electricity and how circuits are put together. Then at the back of the book, they have a lot of spare paper so that your child can actually create their own circuits, and they can trial and test their circuits. They can write down a test they may want to do. They can do a theory on what they're doing. They can then test their theory and put the conclusions. So it's like a report, a scientific report that they can put together. Now, inside the box is all the components in their little compartments, as you can see, and also the pen that creates the circuit. But today is all about unit studies, so I'm going to show you how to incorporate this into a whole term with also using this. Okay, so in these you're getting a box again with a lot of goodies inside. So we have our experiment book, and that's basically showing them how to put together, again, a circuit, a series of circuits, a parallel circuit, using the little experiment kit that comes with the box. So again, this is just reinforcing everything that they've just learnt in this one, but to me this one's a little bit more creative because they can make their own. It also comes with big posters. You could put this up in whatever room you study in, or up on the side of the fridge, or I don't know, wherever you want to pop it. And it's a reminder of everything that they're learning in that term. It also comes with a sticker book, which gives the kids lots of stickers that they can use in projects or throughout the workbook. Then last but not least, there's a workbook. So if your kids are inclined to workbooks and love it, they're covered too in this program. In this workbook, it's basically going to run the kids through everything to do with electricity. Now, the good thing about these workbooks is it usually has a little bit of history in it, as well as practical learning, so that it's quite a broad range of learning. So let's show you how to incorporate all the other subjects into this. So if you're wondering if your autistic kids are going to get left behind in a STEM program, sometimes you're going to see the word STEM, and other times you're going to see the word STEAM, which incorporates the art component into it. Even though these resources can sometimes only use the word STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, you can still incorporate art. For instance, in the Circuit Scribe, your artistic children can draw pictures and bring them to life with the circuits and lights and sound. Okay, so when you're thinking about putting a unit study together, you can take a big picture thought like the Circuit Scribe or electricity in general and circuits, and then you have to start thinking about each particular subject and how you can fit that into that subject matter. So if you take together history and you think, okay, so how do I put history into electricity and circuits? Well, that's pretty easy, because you can look at the history of electricity. You can look at the different inventors of electricity along the way and how it progressed. And you can look at the inventions that are related to electricity. Then you may think geography, okay, how do I fit that in? Well, you could look at it as, where did electricity come from first? Who started using electricity? You may be able to put a timeline together on the different countries that started to use electricity and the years that they started to use electricity. So that's a little bit of history in there as well. Or you could study one of those particular countries that had a very big impact on the introduction of electricity. Okay, then there's English. I mean, English is pretty easy because realistically, as long as you're teaching the rules, you can pretty much incorporate English into most things. So for instance, if they're doing scientific studies and they're doing experiments, they can write down in a report on what they're planning to learn, how their experiment went, and the conclusion of that experiment. which is all English, yeah? They're just writing down. Now, at the same time, obviously, you'll be teaching them rules that are related to English, but you can do it in a way that is interesting by using it in the unit study. So you can even use it for sight words if you want to take out all the different words you can find in the textbook related to electricity and circuits or history of electricity and the inventions that have been discovered. You can then use those words as their sight words, and you'd find so many words in here that you could literally almost go for a term just using words from these resources. If you want them to write a story, you could do a historical fiction, and that way they're learning from the history lesson that you've already done. They could then incorporate all those lessons and their geography lesson and incorporating those into a story or a historical fiction. Now, like I said, all those artistic kids are not left behind. Even art can be covered in a unit study because in this particular one, you can draw your own art pieces, and I have seen some amazing artwork using this program that then lights up or makes sounds whenever they're touching something on their art piece. Now, it doesn't just stop there. You can use those stickers on a poster or a project that they may put together or a science fair project, and that is all creativity, yes? Okay, so you may be starting to get the picture of what a unit study is. It's basically taking one subject matter or one theory or one idea or one interest, yes? So your child's interest or something that they really like or that's something that they need to learn, and incorporating all the subjects into that one idea. So you can use their love of animals, like I said, or maybe science or plants or architecture or coding. Realistically, whatever they can think of and love, you can incorporate into a unit study. Now, if you wanted to follow your state's curriculum and what they're learning in schools, you could take out one of the subjects that they're learning at school and still do a unit study based on that subject, which is why I chose electricity, because that is one of the things that they learn about, one of the topics they cover in Year 6, which is what my kids are in. Now, I like doing my curriculum in a unit study. I don't always do it like that, but if I'm going to do a big picture sort of idea like electricity or circuits, I like to do it in a unit study way because it really gives me a more hands-on feeling when it comes to their learning. And it also means that I can incorporate some of those subjects that the kids may not like to do by themselves, English for my children, and they don't really realize they're doing it when you incorporate it into a unit study. Now, as for mathematics in one of these style of unit studies, I do not think, and this is just my opinion, that you should just rely on the unit study for your mathematical needs. I always think that you should be doing math on top of whatever you may incorporate into the unit study. So for us, we're still doing all our online activities when it comes to maths or our online programs, but we may look at whatever we can in relation to mathematics in that unit study. So with each unit study subject matter, sometimes you're going to find it hard to put all the subjects into it, and other times you're going to find it really easy. This one can be, this one's quite easy to put most of them in there. Now, of course, if you don't have resources like Circuit Scribe and like these boxes that you can get at the bookstore, then you may want to go to the library and get some free resources. And you can get most of the other information online. So if you have a connection to the internet, or if you don't, again, use the library's connection, you can get all of this information that I've shown you without having these resources. So there's always a way of doing it. You just have to think outside the box, and it doesn't need to always include money. Okay, so I hope that I have given you a bit of information on how to create a unit study. I hope you have a little bit more knowledge of how you may put together curriculum in this style. If you have any questions, please pop them down in the comments below. I may or may not be able to answer them, but I'll give it my best shot. I hope you've liked this episode. If you have, please hit the like button. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. Thank you to everyone who has recently subscribed. I hope to see you all next week, and see you later.